Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got a book review for you today, something a little bit different, but in the new year one of the things I wanted to do was read more. I haven't really read since I was a kid, not constantly, and it's difficult for me to sort of find the time for that and to focus on that. I'm a visual learner, so I love film and TV, and obviously it's a lot easier to sit down and do that than to crack out a book. But we're in March and I've already finished two physical copies of books and 3 or 4 audiobooks. So I mean I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would, and it's definitely difficult to focus at times for me, but one of the things I wanted to do was learn more about Star Wars Legends and read some of these Star Wars novels, just because to kind of get a deeper view on some of the lore, understand some of the things more patched together, some of the stories maybe in ways that I hadn't thought about before, because I have a good understanding of Star Wars, but obviously a lot of that information that's in those books, there's only one way to get it, and that's by reading those books or listening to them. You can't get it because they haven't been made into movies yet or at all. So I really wanted to dive into that, and the first book I wanted to go for after doing some research was the Darth Plagueis book by James Luceno. It is a fantastic book, first and foremost. I took my time going, sort of chapters and chapters at a time in whatever time I could get to sit down and really give it a good read. And one of the things I'll say is, if you are going to read any Star Wars novel, read this one, 100%. If you're a casual fan and you wanted to learn a little bit of the backstory of Plagueis and where he comes into it and how Sidious came out of this massive plan, this is a must read. It is quite technical in terms of a lot of the planets and names of things and people and creatures. The names are sometimes quite difficult to figure out how you would say them. If you can kind of just skim past that and get over that, then it's fine. For me, I struggled a little bit just because it's a great read. It's not a difficult read in terms of it's only for expert readers, but it's more so the fact of there's a lot of new things in here that aren't in Star Wars that you can just go, oh, I know what that is meant to be. So you have to kind of get used to that and then remember them and recall them later in the story when they're brought up. But it's a must read book. I definitely would recommend it. As you can see, it's fairly thick, and it's well worth it. The main point of the book is to follow Darth Plagueis's story in bits and pieces from his time as an apprentice himself, then on his own when he discovered Sidious, and recruiting him and then sort of training him up and having him kind of do his bidding, that sort of thing, becoming a politician, all the way up to sort of the Phantom Menace, basically. And it does talk about how Maul come into the picture for Sidious. So it's things like that. It's great for those little connections of, okay, we know more about Darth Plagueis. We've never seen him on screen. We've heard him referred to once or twice. Because one of the things I learnt is that, although Sidious is and him as Palpatine, and the Emperor, all of his aliases, is one of my favourite characters because of just how huge a plan this was to orchestrate, the Clone Wars and the Revenge of the Sith, basically. And it actually all starts, years before, with Plagueis and his master and the masters of the Sith before that. Passing it down for generation to generation with the Ruler 2, but then Darth Plagueis' kind of realisation of how the Sith would be able to rise again, and that kind of leads into how Sidious has the idea and Sidious refines it himself, and obviously every Sith It talks about it in the book, actually. It's really good for Sith training and lore on that. It depicts, well, not depicts, but it explains the thinking behind that, the training Sidious himself has to endure, and things like that, to really get in touch with the dark side, and things like that. And it goes over the whole meaning of the Rule of Two and the Sith and what they stand for and what's important. And it's really interesting because Plagueis was always a character that I was interested in, and I thought it would be great if he was on screen in some way at some point. I'm not ruling it out. Obviously, we live in this era now of Disney Plus, so there's all sorts of possibilities of him being in a film or a show of some sort, which would be fantastic. I'd love to see that. But without this book, I wouldn't have the knowledge of Plagueis that I do now, and it's really helped me. Even I of course appreciated the story beforehand, and the whole Star Wars saga, but this has really increased my understanding and appreciation for it tenfold, because it really pieces together just how intricate Sidious's plan was, and Plagueis' role in it beforehand, and I didn't know that Plagueis was still around up until kind of the Phantom Menace. In terms of like the timeline, I assumed that he'd gone years before, but it was kind of right as things were turning, Sidious took his chance and then carried on with the plan. And in the book it goes into that, and it's fantastic. Like I say, one of the things to look out for is just the language. In terms of an easy read, if you really want to sponge it all up and absorb all of the information, at times you're going to fly through the text, and at times you're going to have to slow down and try and recall these names and things like that. In terms of like filler, this book was fantastic. There wasn't much filler. Some of the other books I've read, there's a lot of side character filler that I know it's part of world building and kind of enhancing the story in some ways, but I'm sometimes reading thinking, okay, can we get back to the main character that we know and love? This is mostly just interesting content about Darth Plagueis, Darth Sidious, the Senate, even talks about Dooku, goes into that kind of stuff. It's really interesting, so I would definitely recommend it. I haven't listened to it. I read the paperback. I definitely think it would be a fantastic Audible book to listen to. So if you are in two minds about it, definitely go down that route. You need to read this book though somehow. But I really enjoyed having the physical copy to get me back into reading, and I enjoyed it so much so that I was straight on to the next book, which was Kenobi, which I'll be doing a short review of also on the channel. And I just wanted to talk about my experience with it because it was so interesting. But yeah, definitely, I would definitely recommend giving this book a go. If you only are going to read one novel, this is the one for sure. If you want a good starting place, it's also a great starting place because it's so relevant to canon that it's a really good place to start, so that you don't get kind of too withdrawn from the story that you know, to kind of go, okay, I don't really know what that has to do with the story. This is very integral to like the prequels and the original trilogy, I think. So yeah, it's definitely a great book. If I were to give it a score, I'd go 10 out of 10. I mean, I love the cover art. Like, as you can see, that's the face of Plagueis himself, and then Sidious kneeling before him. And yeah, like I say, I haven't listened to the audiobook, but I would definitely give it a go in that form if you're not wanting to give the time out of your kind of schedule to read, just because obviously you can throw some headphones on and then listen on the go. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that little review. We're going to be doing a couple of more of these on the channel, and I know it's something new, but it's that's part of why I started this channel, to just create things, show off projects and collectibles, talk about things that I enjoy, go on trips and vlog them, whatever it is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Leave a like, subscribe, and you'll never miss any of the content to come. But I'm going to leave you with that, guys, as always. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.